Hello, this is Emily McCabe, and this is my presentation for the History of Libraries research project. I chose to do my project in the blog format and have used Weebly.com to host that. My website can be found at holbookburning.weebly.com. After reading my assigned text for the book review, which was Books on Fire by Lucien Polastron, I chose to focus my research project on a brief overview of some historically significant book burnings. My introduction and conclusion as well as 8 instances in history of book burnings can be found on this website. The first page has my introduction. I've lorem ipsum'd 300 words in for right now. I built this during my breaks at work and have been working on the actual posts themselves in a Word document on my computer at home. The first page is the introduction with the links to the subsequent pages further down. There's also a navigation bar at the top of the website. So from the introduction, we move to the first historical instance, which is the act known as the Burning of Scrolls and Burying of Scholars in the 3rd century BCE in China. The first emperor of China is said to have gathered all written works that contradicted his rule and to have burned them, and then buried alive almost 500 dissenting Confucian scholars. This is an interesting piece of history because most of the records that we have of this event come from Han Dynasty Confucian scholars from over 100 years after the fact, and they might understandably be biased against this ruler. Moving on to Egypt, and probably one of the best known and most sad, the Library of Alexandria. The thing is that the burning of the Library of Alexandria is actually not a single event. It's been destroyed in one degree or another at least 3 or 4 times depending upon who you talk to. The most famous, of course, being its destructions during the War of the Caesars, also by Christians and by invading Muslims. But it's also just been set on fire once or twice on accident. During the Spanish Inquisition, the Church sought to control heretical texts through the power of cataloging. They created an index of prohibited texts and published it almost annually for several years and distributed it widely with varying degrees of success. That being said, there are still a number of pretty famous book burnings carried out by Torquemada, and it was quite common for convicted heretics to have their books burned with them at the stake. In England, when Henry VIII decided to oust the long-standing religious traditions and name himself the head of the Church of England, he sacked and destroyed dozens of monasteries in his own country. Any books with expensive bindings were sold off to benefit the crown, and countless manuscripts were just cast out to the peasantry. Henry is famously quoted as suggesting that they use these pages as kindling or toilet paper. In Mesoamerica, book burning was employed as a tool to quell the indigenous by controlling their connection to their culture and history. In 1562, Bishop Diego de Landa made a bonfire out of a huge pile of Mayan codices, histories reaching back through hundreds of years of their culture. This is not the only book burning of its kind, but it's one of many, and to this day there are only 3 verified Mayan codices left in existence. During World War II, most people know of the Nazi book burnings, especially that one in 1933 by overzealous students of books that were deemed un-German by the ruling party. Over 25,000 books were burned. However, not a lot of people consider the damage done as a byproduct of the war. British libraries were destroyed during the Blitz. In Austria and Germany, libraries burned under strategic bombings by the Allies, and poor Italy just got it from both sides, suffering from German fires and from Allied bombings. And just a few short years after the war, in the early days of McCarthyism, a number of very Nazi-esque book burnings were carried out here in America by community groups, Boy Scout troops, church organizations, and just concerned parents. Thousands of comic books, especially those in the horror, crime, and weird genres, were gathered up and burned in the hopes of protecting the youth from their corrupting effects. And in Mali, there is an incredible story of a near miss. During the Tuareg uprising in 2003, Islamic militants laid siege to a number of libraries, universities, and archives, burning any pre-Islamist texts or anything else that they deemed heretical. Thankfully, they overlooked a massive cache of these materials in the basement of one university, which were later smuggled out of the city. And today, although many volumes are lost forever, there is a massive effort to digitally preserve what's left. In closing, I plan to discuss a couple of contemporary reflections, namely the burning of 50 Shades of Grey by an abused women's shelter in 2012, and also the idea of digital data corruption as a form of book burning or the loss of information nowadays. On this page, I've also included a list of further readings and resources. This really is a massive topic, and it's one that's almost impossible to cover within the scope that I was given for this assignment. But I think that I've selected some good examples, and I think I'll do it justice. And I hope you enjoy. Thank you very much.